Hi, Olympio. And is Olympio pronounced perfectly?
Perfect, Adam. Like my mother.
Oh, very good. So this is already the perfect start of a conversation, you know? Father
Yeah.
would be a little bit better, but I'm okay with mother as well, you know?
Yeah, we have to be flexible. And actually Adam is the name of my son, so we are in a big
Oh,
family here.
really?
Yes. My
That's
son my
super cool.
son my son is named Adam.
In German, it's not that common, Adam. So I'm the first, the first man. So this is Adam. Is it common in Romania, Adam?
Not really. It's common around the Hungarian minority, so usually
hmm
people start speaking to him in Hungarian, but not on the Romanian side. So
hmm And now the question to you, because I noticed a pattern. Do all Java user groups leaders have the last name Pop?
yeah, that was the main argument for me
Okay.
to take over the Java user group from Gabi.
Uh-huh.
He looked a while, so until he find the right pop. But yeah,
Okay. Now I got it. So this is why it took so long.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Now back to serious stuff. What was your first computer?
Uh, a 486.
No kidding.
Yeah,
So you're that young. How is it possible that you have a son now?
it's debatable. Yeah, yeah. That was my first. That was my first computer that I owned. Before that, I used some others. I don't remember exactly the models because they were part of a laboratory.
Okay.
But those with the huge flexible cassettes. So
Okay. So were the Romanians computer?
uh, no, no, I think it was imported.
Okay.
I don't
Because
I don't
what
remember
I learned
exactly.
is I had already a podcast with Gabriel, or you could say Gabby, and he had a really interesting Romanian computer. I was not aware of it, and I looked it up in Wikipedia, and it was actually impressive. So usually, the Eastern computer technologies. I had a couple of podcasts with Czech people and Polish people, and they were not as impressive as the Romanian one. So it seems like you were the Silicon Valley of Eastern Europe back then.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't have that much exposure to those, but yes, that's what I learned as well.
Okay, cool. What you did was the Fear is German 486.
Well, at that point, I started playing games, obviously, and then I
Mhm,
learned that most of the DLLs are quite useful in
mhm,
a game because it was a long scroll. Actually, it was in MS-DOS. There wasn't a scroll, so I had to type a lot until I got to the executable. So I
mhm.
started deleting all of those, and then I realized that my games are not working. That was the first thing, and then
So
around
you
I don't
started
know,
for fun, deleting just stuff and see what happens.
yeah,
This is what I do in projects actually. So I delete all the dependencies, and it's surprising how far you can come, in with Java. So cool,
and at some point I started programming. I think I was around 9, 10 years old.
crazy. So, what was your favorite game back then? You remember?
Initially, I started playing with basic jump and run games like I don't know, Jackrabbit or stuff like that. Basic Prince of Persia. But after that, the last game actually that I played was Warcraft or Age of Empires in terms of more strategy.
But this was like 2000s, right?
Yeah, but my PC's evolved in the meantime, so that's why I'm giving it a span.
What I remember, someone with 486, I think, had Wing Commander or something like this. And I never played that, but I watched and I was completely hooked. It was like simulation with the was it like the TIE fighters from Star Wars or something like this?
Probably.
Yeah, this is what I saw, but never played that. So so I'm waiting for the guest who actually has experience with Wing Commander because I was curious to know what it actually was. Okay, why you started programming and what you did? So what is the story?
Well, actually, I was just thinking the other day about the way how the generation shifted in Romania. So back at that point in the 90s, everybody was pushing you to learn stuff for your brain. So everything that was outside school had to be something, either chess, either a foreign
Oh,
language. Programming was quite important during those days because we spend a lot of time outside just running around and playing football or all the other stuff. And nowadays, most of the kids that I know, they do a lot of sports because they spend a lot of time in school. So basically, the reason was the guy that sold the PC to me. was a friend of my mother's, and he had a programming class, if you want, just trying to learn kids how to program. And that sounded interesting. It was pre-internet at that point. My parents didn't. Most of the people in Romania didn't have a phone at that point because it was something that was quite limited. So I started programming with Pascal. Doing some graphic stuff and stuff like that. That it's just rudimentary.
But more or less because you had to, right? It's not like you wanted to achieve something, but it was like
that was the curricula. Exactly.
Gentle push to do that, right?
Exactly. So it was my choice in the end, but it's complicated when you're quite young, and that was those were the first steps into computer science. Then at school,
and you liked that, or was it like,
Yeah, I enjoyed going to those classes, even though the pedagogical skills of the guy are not impressive. So it was hard to understand the connection between the stuff and separation of concerns, if you want, because everything was dumped in one place. And even at that point, I was a little bit not happy with how clean the code was. And after that, given that Romania had a lot of push on the real sciences, mathematics was something that I did a lot, and I participated in some mathematical olympiads, or how will be the proper name in English. And you didn't have any kind of guiding into what kind of job to have, or what kind of path to have. A colleague of mine, his sister was older than us with 5 or 6 years, and she was in the computer science high school, and that sounded cool. I liked the name. I liked math, so one thing led to another. So then I started more to do with programming, because in the high school you had to do a lot of stuff.
And you also liked science fiction movies or books or whatever?
Obviously.
Okay.
Obviously.
Because this was my thing, so my interest was sparked by science fiction, basically, because everything was cool and computer had to be cool. So I always, tried to find something which is cool in the computer in the early days.
Yeah. Well, basically, I think in terms of literature, we had access to less. I still have one of the oldest books in science fiction books that I have is Isaac Asimov, but I cannot remember which one.
I still have it here. I have the books in German. And what I remember, actually, I have to read it because I got it from a developer in Hamburg, actually, and he said it's a great author. And I just read the first few pages, but the first few pages, what I remember is a developer who worked for the Institute of Magic and Sorcery or something like this. So crazy stuff. So I already liked, I never had the time, to read it really, but I have it on my shelf. Yeah, seems to be like a very good author.
Yeah, I like the ones that I read were quite good. Now I want to do it with my kids. But I was now I think the current term is a Trekkie. I enjoyed a lot Star Trek, and I used to spend most of the kids were outside on Sunday, because it's Sunday afternoon, and I used to watch a lot of science fiction movies, especially series, Star Trek and a couple of other ones. But
you like Star Trek? I hated it because it looks like a theater for me. I knew Star Wars. So Star Wars is the thing, but Star Trek is just like I don't know. It's like the Smurfs, the small blue guys. So the Star Trek was like this. For me, it's just like crazy. Now I would more appreciate, but now I get the idea. But back then it was for me it like laughable. Star Trek comparing to Star Wars back then.
Even surprising enough, I had a podcast a couple of months ago probably, with somebody from IDEO, and she was a Trekkie as well. And for me, how I looked at it is like Star Wars is very dystopian, while on the other side, Star Trek is very utopian, more or less. So that's probably the reason, because I'm most often than not I'm a realist with optimist tendencies. So I'm just trying to see the half full side of the glass. So probably that was why. But yeah, if you think about it, yes, it looks like Smurfs, because there are all these characters that are odd, but And the other funny thing is that there was a character in Star Trek, this guy that was blind and he had some goggles that he managed to see through them, whatever. And now there is a Romanian startup, Dot Lumen it's called, and they do this kind of glasses, and they're using artificial intelligence. And yes, basically that was for me a lot of the parallels, and I think it's quite.
I didn't recognize that because I never made through an episode on Star Trek, so I couldn't see the connections that this is actually about the future. And Star Wars for me was like, it looked like more realistic because there was dust, nothing was perfect. It was more like a modern Western, let's say. It was like and and a good point. What I see is that the science fiction was actually very good for innovation, because a lots of projects right now, they are emulating science fiction. And the question is why the name is metaverse, from Snow Crash or whatever, Elon Musk, whatever. They thought the movies and tried to replicate it in the real world, which is a good motivation to have, right? So without science fiction, everything would be at least more boring, right?
Yes, I agree. And probably that's why, talking about science fiction books, there was a series, I don't remember exactly which one, and I don't know the term, but it's like more current sci-fi that is like, in your arm's reach. It's like 10 years in the future, not
Cyberpunk.
Hundreds of years. More or less, yeah, I don't remember exactly, but this one.
Funny story, I was at the DevTalks conference in Romania, and in the near of my hotel, there was a bar with good coffee. So I walked in and I ordered a coffee, and it looked a little bit strange, like aliens with wood or whatever, right? It's like, hey, this looks like cyberpunk. And the owner said, no, it's not cyberpunk. It was cyberpunk, but now it's another punk. It's not cyberpunk. It's like there's another steampunk. And he said, and now it's steampunk. And I said, okay, I don't know the difference, but it looks still good. But the coffee was great. It was a coffee in Cluj.
It's funny because currently there is also an escape room in Cluj around. Again, I think it's called Steampunk Transylvania, and there is a big culture here. And also in terms of coffee, I don't drink coffee, so for me, it's
no Star Wars, no coffee while we talk. No, this is like
I watch Star Wars. I like it, but it's a matter of. Currently I'm still trying to convince my son that he has to wait a bit until we can watch Star Wars together, because he is talking a lot about Jedis. But funny enough, I have friends from all over Europe that are just asking me to bring them some coffee, and I say, come on, you probably have better coffee. No, there are roasteries very good in Cluj, and people that are actually enjoying doing that. So
Now back to you, because it's already interesting conversation, but you started programming in Turbo Pascal, you enjoyed that. What happened afterwards?
I stopped enjoying Turbo Pascal and I started using something else. I think for me, the most interesting shift was how do you connect, because all the things were more or less CLIs at that point, because you had to use a terminal. But after that, there was Delphi. And I tried Delphi for a while because it was easy to do forms and stuff like that, but it was still odd. And during the high school years, I had to use C and Fox Pro. I don't remember the exact order. I wasn't too much of an HTML guy, even though it was the trend at that point to just do HTML, because it felt odd for me. And even now, I still avoid doing anything in the front end side. And after that, in university, everything exploded, and then there are a lot of stuff. You had a choice to make during the 2000s in Romania. You either chose Java or .NET. Basically, this is what the companies were looking for. Obviously, there was the C part.
What was bigger in Romania, .NET or Java?
Well, it depended how you looked at that, because my feeling was always that, especially in the university years, it felt that .NET is bigger, but .NET was very connected and tied to everything that's university. They had these huge programs in terms of academia. They had a lot of resources at the point when you still used CDs and DVDs to install stuff. They had a lot of movement in from that perspective, and they managed to infiltrate in universities. For instance, everything related to databases was MS SQL. So you came with a lot of baggage, a lot of luggage from university, knowing .NET technologies. But for me, it seemed crooked because it didn't feel nice to pay for something, and it wasn't free. So that's what attracted me to Java mainly. I did a fair share of years also the C++ during those years, and I enjoyed it a lot. And basically that was it. That's I got hired in the second year of university. I did an internship with Siemens PSA, working on telecommunications servers, gadgets, whatever, these big base machines. I implemented the first low-level protocol together with a bunch of colleagues on
In Java?
yes, Java.
So you learned how you got to Java? What was your first how you learned Java?
It was in university where I had my first exposure. I think it was the first or second year of university when I started. I liked it a lot. I think I started with 1.4.
Okay.
And that was still, it was already quite interesting. And at that point, it was I don't remember exactly. It was mostly data structures and algorithm implementation, and I liked the approach. I liked a lot the design part and the way how it was broken down into smaller pieces. So that felt normal. But then after I had the internship, because I was usually just looking for more stuff. Again, the internet it wasn't a commodity. At that point, people started creating neighborhood networks. So that was one of my first projects. And I connected that. I think at the biggest point of time, there were like 50 to 60 nodes in a bunch of switches tied together. And probably we had to shift, to change at least one or two per quarter because they were getting burned. They weren't thought about that kind of distance. But at that point, I didn't have more access to anything. So basically, I learned in jobs and from other stuff that I got.
What you knew before Java? Pascal and C, and then you
Yes, Pascal C and some Fox Pro, but basically that's
and
it.
at that point in time, you really liked programming, or was it just university for you? So what?
No, but I liked it. For me, it was a passion. So I couldn't.
Very good.
I couldn't do something that, for instance, I remember that I was talking to my current wife at that point, girlfriend, that I was, always trying to figure out how to improve the solution. I was in the bus with my hands in the air and I just trying to do some byte shift in my head. And yes, it felt like probably a Star Wars command dashboard. And I was playing and people were looking at me in the bus that I'm crazy. So, and I always went a bit more than the extra mile. Like, okay, for instance, I remember a course in university. I had to design these things, the cruise controller for the cars. And
wow. So you built it in early Romanian Tesla, right? So
let's say that
Dacia on steroids. Dacia is the name, right? Dacia on steroids.
Yeah. But it was just I was on the softer side, so
sure.
no hardware. So it was just an emulator. Probably that's the best. And I just put a lot of stuff that is actually current. And the professor said, "Okay, you already finished your task." Yeah, well, but it's about seeing where we can take it. So that's basically what I pushed a lot. I tried to get as much as possible into internships at that point because you didn't have that many things as you have now. And I just tried to get more out of those. I had a trial on the open source side, but it was very complicated because I still didn't have internet at home. Probably I was in the second or third year of university when I
Which was it? 2005, I guess, right?
Yeah, 2005, 2006, around that moment I started having access to broad internet. I remember when I installed them, and probably they used to be also in Germany, but there were these cheap magazines where where you had some software
Yeah.
and some movies attached to those, and that was another part that I was reading frequently, and each month I was just looking through those.
Were they
So
Romanian magazines, or you get the US one?
yes, it was. They were already translated in Romania.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people that in this space. So yeah, and starting from the second year of university, 2007 or third, I got hired, and then university was just complementary, and I started working on real projects.
But
It's
this was
free
hard, or
actually.
not right? This was hard. So because if you worked on projects and you had a university on the side, it's not easy, right?
Well, after today's standards, it isn't easy. Everything is hard. But for me, it was a pleasure because I was one of the few people that managed to find a job and be able to go through those. And it was just the rhythm. So, okay, I'm learning something and I just can apply those things.
Cool.
So I just pushed through those. I didn't think that much about it. And even now, it's okay. I like to get...
Because I had similar experience, but I was freelance. I worked full time and I had to study at the same time. And this was harder because what I saw is that what we learned in the study doesn't make necessary sense a lot. This was hard to motivate from then. And and you were hired by Siemens?
Initially I was hired by Siemens for an internship. That happened for like three months, and after that I stopped and I worked with a Romanian nearshoring company.
Okay.
Because there was a different city. I did my university in Cluj. The Siemens was in Brașov, so a couple of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers away. So
Brașov is a beautiful city, by the way. I was there.
Yes.
So it is a really interesting city in the mountains, right? So if I
Kronstadt. That's the name under which it was founded.
But to listeners, it is like it looks like a James Bond city. You could have an episode with James Bond in winter, right? This is like this is like what to call it is. It is relatively high, I would say. It is in the mountains, and this is hard to get, right? So
it's on the Carpathians, so on the border point between the rest of Romania and Transylvania. So that's why, and it had a lot of importance. Transylvania in German was Siebenburgen, so it was seven castles, and Brașov was the Kronstadt, so it was the place that united all of them.
Okay.
And even you can see already still the inheritance that comes from those periods. But the problem was that it became an industrial town, or the benefit was, and it was for a brief period of time. It was called Stalin, the city of Stalin.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But I was after that, like 3 years ago or something. And funny enough, this was a funny story. So I rent a car because I flew to Bucharest, and this is the easiest. And to get to Brașov, you need a car. And so I ordered the cheapest car, but I deactivated the navigation system option. So, and there were some managers with me in the airplane, and they got, I think, Fiat and Opel, and I got a Mercedes C series. And they look at me and they say, "You have that much money. Why you did it?" And I had no idea why it happened. And you know why it happened? Because Mercedes C series is the only car where you can deactivate the navigation system with a USB stick. So this was the only reason I got upgraded. I was forced to upgrade, and I had no idea. They look at me as I'm the young, I don't know, CEO or CTO. I just had to get to Brașov. So this is the story. So funny one. Nice. So maybe a sixth hack, So this was
Yeah. Now, lucky enough, you can fly directly in Brașov. So
really?
You don't have
Okay. Back then was not possible. This was like before Corona. I was briefly before Corona.
Yeah. So they opened the airport a couple of years back. I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago.
Okay, cool, super cool. Okay, and also interesting. Almost at the same time, I had also internship at Siemens. Maybe it was 3 years earlier, at AGC in Munich is called for Authorized Java Center, and this was actually pretty cool. So it was also maybe 3 months there, very similar to yours. And then I was back then already freelancer, but I also studied, and yeah. Then it was
Nice.
earlier. It was not 2003 because it was before 2000. It was 1997 to 2000. So this in this range was also a nice time. Okay, so you quit Siemens, worked for Romanian insurance company. You said
No, it was a Romanian nearshoring companies because at that
nearshoring.
point,
Okay.
yes, at that point probably those were the biggest companies that cheap labor of the
Mhm.
East, a lot of
Mhm.
brain. People are just trying to put things together. I know a lot of the guys that are very very good at what they are doing currently, and most of them started as QAs because that was the first thing that people started
Mhm.
outsourcing to the East, so
Mhm.
to Romania. Um, yeah, so I spent a couple of years there. I
Was
think
it
2
good?
years. Yeah, it was nice. I came from just basic programming. I came to write applications, web applications, and after I think there was the era of the AGBs.
Mhm.
Here everything was Spring, and that
Mhm.
was the cool technology. And then it appeared also at school, but that was a little bit later.
This is interesting because I started back then with EJBs. As the Spring came out, someone showed me Spring, and there was more XML than Java code. And I said, I don't know whether this is a good idea. And and actually never did since then. Really Spring, and yeah, this is interesting. That you said the Spring was cool for me. Was like back then with the XML dream of an architect, so that they can describe everything, all the dependencies in XML, and everything is wired, and they have control what connects to what. But in my projects, there was only one connection, so there was, I would say, we had never the problem that we have more than one implementation for an interface. So the entire idea that you have to configure everything in XML was a bit strange for me. So this is what my impression of Spring back then was. Mhm.
Yeah, well, it was odd. I never liked XML. That's
Yeah,
for sure. But on the other hand, it's there weren't that many chances for us,
yeah,
and
sure.
you just looked at it, and it was wow. It's a lot different from what we learned and all the heavyweight stuff, and it was nice to work with people that actually know more than you, and not
Yeah.
professors that are just guiding you in the wrong direction. And the alternative project that I started initially was a project with JBoss that
Mhm.
required a couple of probably 1 hour and a half, 2 hours to build, and
Oh, really?
I spent 1 week to just try to put these things together. I never managed to do it actually, and to just be able to use Tomcat, it was a lot easier. So yeah, it was quite nice from that point of view.
This was also a pity back then because everyone tried to implement a framework on top of the entire EJB stuff, and then in one point of time was so complicated no one knew actually what's going on, right? So and yeah, okay. So the nearshoring, what happened after nearshoring? Have we already met at the Java user group at that time?
No, I don't think so. After that, I left for studies. I was in Linz for
Wow.
3 years, I think,
Uh huh.
where I did my master studies with JKU, with Johannes Kepler University.
Crazy. This is the same
Uh,
university where Graal VM happened.
yeah, I didn't know that.
And NetBeans as well. So there's like the research center
Yeah,
of Austria.
and I spent 2008 until 2011. I was in Linz. I was in Oberösterreich,
Mhm.
where initially I worked with Fabasoft, or a small company from Fabasoft, and for my research I did some they tried to do some kind of what probably now we'll call observability stuff
Okay.
for high for very complex systems, and it was very complicated, and we tried to do some kind of not applets, but something similar. I think there was some portlets. Yeah, it was a portal stuff that they were trying to aggregate, and that's what I did during my studies. And after that, I worked with a startup, an Austrian startup. They were the guys that made the first wallets, from what I know of. So what currently we call a Apple wallet or whatever, any kind of wallet, this is what they tried to put together at that point. And they had a couple of shops in Switzerland.
And I thought you would say Dynatrace, because this is
no, yes,
because there's also in the area of Linz and also startup back then. So
yeah, it was. They're actually in Hagenberg in Milkreis, where I was also based. So I was close 30 kilometers from Linz. And it was nice because I was the second or the third programmer in the company, obviously hired for our skills, not because we were cheaper than most of the Austrians. So I was Romanian, the other guy was Bulgarian. So, and I spent, initially I should have started writing Java code, but the project was 2008. So exactly in the crisis, the financial crisis, a lot of projects were stopped. And at that point, I started writing .NET code for 2 years, I think.
I will cut it out from the podcast, but it's okay.
Yes. I knew you would, so I said, okay, let's give you something.
Was it C# at least?
Yes, it was C#.
And C# is nice, right? So C# is actually like Java++. Also they,
it was nice because you saw that there were a couple of GCP proposals that they were already implemented. These guys were just trying to find inspiration. For instance, the first things that I did were, before they were actually part of Java, the part with metadata.
Annotations.
The annotations.
Yeah. They had attributes, I think, in C#.
Exactly.
And then we got annotations in Java. This is what I also noticed. Because back then I got lots of questions from C# developers whether we have attributes. And I couldn't understand the question. Say, attributes, of course we have attributes. So, but not these attributes. Like, which attributes would we like to have? And then I got, annotations.
Yeah, it was nice. I really enjoyed that period because it was the first time when I started exposing services. So I was a big believer into the flexibility of having services on the backend side, and then you can just do whatever you want to consume them. And I used the attributes to just provide metadata. And based on that, I was deciding. So pretty much what now we'll probably do with authorization, I was trying to do that through attributes and providing those kind of things and just making sure that things are happening as expected. On the other side, it was Java Micro, so Java 2ME. The applications were in that, and so I started doing a lot of shrinking, so using DTOs basically, but very small DTOs, and then depending on what you asked to have. So most of the things that currently you take for granted as libraries, I implemented those alone at that point in C#. And it was, and also the other interesting part was like we started implementing a bit of agile with my colleague because we had some experience from the past, and the philosophy of the company, the philosophy of the boss of the company was: we write the code, the users are testing it. If there is a problem, they'll just call us and tell us about it.
Yeah, this is what.
Yeah, exactly. So exactly. So those were the years that.
But honestly, we always did agile, right? So even at the beginning, it was the waterfall, whatever. I read lots of books, and I still have the books. And for me, was unimaginable to be able to specify in diagram, everything, all these specifics with tag values. And I looked at morph, meta model, UML, and I say, okay, I'm not capable to specify everything in a diagram, then generate the stub and then implement the code, because I was thinking completely different way. So if I start to code, I get immediately the first idea. So it has to be start with code or at least iterate fast. So what we did, we faked the waterfall, but we always were iterative, right? And I think there's no other way to do that, right? Maybe this was your first official incremental project, but I think you always did it, or not?
Yeah, exactly. It was the same, but it was the first time when, I felt it. I was coming from a background when we had iterative processes and everything was going smoothly, from a point when okay, these are the specifications. Now you do coding, and then we just ship it. So then we said, okay, let's go see and have discussions and how to improve. And that was well perceived because, it was probably the first question for me that I asked myself, how do you convince your manager? So that started in terms of persuasion and all these kind of things. And I still remember the presentation that you had in Cluj at that point, when we had a discussion at that point about how do you do iterative development basically on the data, because data has gravity, and how do you do migration. And then I know that we discussed about those kind of things and how to insert it and how you save it. And that was, again, very eye-opening at that point. So yeah, thank you for that.
Which presentation was it? Was it the Java user group presentation?
Yeah.
The early one?
Java user group yeah, the early one, the first one.
The early one was interesting because I was so proud because of Dracula on Transylvania, no? And the first sentence, someone stood up and say, you know what, we hate Dracula. So, okay, what I can do? And they say then, what I should implement? And someone said, okay, we like liquor, start with Palinka. And then I learned from now, I still know, Zuitka, right? Palinka, and two others. And then we started, this was like very interactive. This was a room full of people, and we just, and we had just fun developing. Back then it was Java 6, I guess, in an old hotel. And cool. So you attended the first presentation.
Yeah,
cool.
The thing is that those moments were probably the golden era of the Java users group, or at least in Romania. We had on average 100 to 200 people. For your presentation, people were standing. The same happened when Venkat Suramayan was in Cluj. So, and at that, I think the peak was 2.4K people in the meetup group. That was the biggest for the meetup.
And data gravity. Maybe I said it. I don't know, but could come because the idea is that data wins, and from data is the master. And this was not my idea. I observed lots of Ruby on Rails how they see this, and they say, okay, the truth is in one point. It could be in the database, it could be outside, but it should be somewhere and should not be replicated. And okay, so and you obviously moved back to Romania, right, from Austria? So you didn't like the Austrians anymore, or what happened?
Well, it all depends, because our professor from that point, he was from Tyrol. He asked a lot of people why. I had some colleagues from Egypt that spent years in Germany, and they said, okay, why did you come to Austria? And I said, okay, people are warmer. And I said, yeah, well, you're from Bayern, so it's not exactly. You're closer to Austria rather than Germany. So, so I moved back to Romania, working for an Austrian company. I started working for Uniqa, the
Crazy.
insurer.
You know why? Because I was, early 2000s. Uniqa asked me to help some developers in Cluj.
Yeah, for me it was I think 2011 when I came here. But at that point, for me, coding meant you actually wrote the code. They used something very ugly called WebMethods, and that was generating a lot of stuff and a lot of abstraction that didn't make any sense. And after that, a friend of mine called me. Okay, we are building something from scratch. We are two guys. You'll be the third one, but the second one in terms of experience. So I jumped on let's call it a startup for actually a Bayerish company, an industrial company from Traunstein.
Wow.
And these guys had a bunch of stuff. I mean, they had applications written in Delphi, C, you name it.
What name of the company, if you can reveal, you know it?
It was Bruckner AG. They are doing this. They are doing this foil. They have the machinery that do the foil. You have put plastic, small pieces of plastic on one side, and then you have foil on the other side. So what they wanted to do, it was like a dream coming true. They had some scattered applications in different programming languages, and they wanted to create something that probably now we'll call a system, where you have all of them together, and then depending on what you provided, you can build it from scratch. And it was nice because we had to bootstrap ourselves. The only things that we had were laptops and a room. So we had to buy a server. At that point, people were still using, the second generation of source control management tools. I think it was SVN at least. And I was just pushing a lot to choose either Mercurial or Git. I said, okay, I would prefer Git because it's a little bit more, I like working in the command line. So I was pushing for that. So
interesting. At the beginning, I picked Mercurial, and the main reason is because Java also had the Mercurial. I observed,
exactly.
it's like, okay, then, and Mercurial was actually good, and I switched to Git. It was not that much difference for me. It was similar.
Yeah. There was at some point, there was some kind of comparison. There was a graphic, and they said, okay, Mercurial is like, you have like a chef's knife for everything. You have something, something like that, and a knife for everything. While Git is like a Swiss Army knife, where you have all of them in the same place, and you just can play with it. So that was the first step for me in terms of DevOps, where we had Jenkins in place. We created the pipeline, and we had to architect the whole application with bits and pieces. And also probably the first sales pitch that I had, because
you were a startup or you were a part of the Bruckner company?
We are a spin-off. I think probably that would be the best one. The idea was that the company should start in Romania, grow to 20 to 30 people, get the project up to a given point, and then the company will be absorbed in the main company. So we were a partnership at that point.
This is a very good strategy. What I never got, I was in Germany in projects where they tried to treat the external partners like just contractors, We write spec, we give them the spec, they will implement the spec, and then we get the software, this is done. And this never worked. But if you work with a team as a team, of course it works, So then we work together, and it will work. So there's no difference between us. But, the artificial boundary between the external nearshore partner and the internal business department was always problematic because information got lost, right?
Yeah.
So you worked in Traunstein then?
Yeah, I visited Traunstein a couple of times, and we were there, but mainly I was based in Cluj. And yeah, it was an interesting project.
And you did it in Java, I guess, right? The software was built in Java?
Yeah.
Was it successful?
Yeah. Up to a given point, it was, because the company got bought after that, and then the decision was to internalize most of the roles. Okay. And I moved on at that point.
Okay. To what?
There was a company currently is called Broadridge, but at that point it was a startup, a French startup working in the financial industry. They were building a lot of connectivity for the stock exchanges, and that's that I joined one of the teams that were doing monitoring for stock exchange. So you had to see all the orders, how they are moving from one side to another, and the way how they are split. It was quite interesting, because around that time people were like, just okay, if it needs to be fast, it needs to be C, and these guys were doing it in Java. And at that point, it was the first time when I met with the mechanical sympathy concept.
Disruptor pattern.
Exactly.
Thompson. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thompson is his name, right?
Yeah, he's the one that put the disruptor together. Actually, the other day we had another Java users group meetup, and some of the guys from Broadridge came and presented how they.
Cool.
They came with a disruptor, and I challenged them to see, because they said they played with AI generation. I said, okay, let's see some hits and misses with AI generation around the disruptor, and how good is the code that is written. So that's pretty much what we looked into. Yeah, so it was a fun night.
Low latency. This is crazy. The disruptors was like ring buffer to minimize garbage collectors cycles, and and in one point of time, you started to do the Java Advent. Because you were behind Java Advent, right?
Java Advent was started. It seems that they have a long history of taking over projects by their initiators, projects that are aligned. So around that period of time, I think I took over maybe 1 year before or after I took over the Java users group from Gabi when Gabi moved to Amsterdam. And then I just took over the Java Advent. It was started by a guy, Otilo Balas. He had to move to Switzerland. He moved to Google in Switzerland, and I picked up the Java Advent, and probably it's 15 years already. And each year I promised myself that it's the last time when I do it. Well, that was up to a given point, but then I started having fun, and when knowing more the community, it got easier and easier to do it, and now it became a tradition for a lot of the folks in the Java space. So yeah, we are looking forward for this year's edition, and I'm discussing with different companies or different publications to just be able to do it like a real Java Advent and publish it as a single deliverable.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was asked by you or by
by me
to deliver something Java Advent, and I didn't know what the concept is, and I said what I should do, and you answered record a video. And I say, okay, this is what I could do. I recorded video, put it on YouTube, and send you the link. And they said, this is not how it works. Then I say, how it works then? And then we lost connection. And I remember this story because you mentioned Java Advent. It's like, I know it from somewhere. But the concept of Java Advent is, what is the concept actually?
Pretty much the same concept for every Advent calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Each day during the Advent, you have an article going live.
Mm-hmm.
So each day from the 1st of December until the 24th, we have, well, obviously there is probably one more week that is missing from here, the last week of November. But basically for each day in December until the Christmas, you have an article being published by somebody in the Java community.
And the article is short, long, doesn't matter. Is this article specifically for Java Advent?
Yep.
Okay. And then you open, this is like hidden, and if you open the door, you see the article. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I saw this the first time I mentioned at java.net back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you were this. I will search for the email. Actually, it interests me right now what I actually did, but I couldn't get the concept. I thought, okay, this is just enough to publish something, but I didn't got the concept. It has to be private. So this is how we met.
Yeah, I can give you the summary. So what happened is that even now we still use WordPress because that was the easiest thing that was put together at that point, and unfortunately, I never had the time to put more, or I didn't prioritize it properly to do it in a different way. Mm-hmm. And it was quite hard to host videos or just embed them properly without any headaches. So that's what the issues were. Now we evolved and we have other perspectives, and we are looking into moving from the current implementation based on WordPress to something based on Java. So actually, this is probably the first time when we pushed it in public. I had a recording not long ago, a couple of weeks ago, with Andy Damavin from Red Hat, the person that is part of the Quarkus team, but he put together Rook, whatever it's the proper pronunciation, and that's based on MD files or ASCII doctor files, and then it's a static website generator based on Quarkus. So now I just threw this challenge to Andy. What if you help us next year after we are done with this edition and move it to Java, and let's bootstrap it and then write about your experience as an article for 2026 Java Advent. So that's what we are considering doing now.
This would be pretty cool, and you could even keep, the entire project with Rook or Rock or Quarkus as open source on GitHub somewhere, so people you could look and see how it was done as a use case, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the plan.
Mm-hmm. So okay, now we cover Java Advent because it was curious actually to demystify that, and it's still going, which is kudos to you. Is actually very good. So now, what happened after your last job to now? I mean, you were still, a lot of company involved, or basically you are still working on stock exchange observability, low latency disruptors?
Well, probably at that point, it was the end of my professional coding career.
Oh.
After that point, I took more managerial positions, and programming became something that is more POCs or uh, small trials for different customers, more on the pre-sale side. So I complicated my life. Long story short, I complicated my life unexpectedly and without any purpose. Basically, that's what I did in multiple type of companies. But what I gained is more exposure to more type of technology, because then I was very embedded. Until at that point I was very embedded in the Java space. After that I got more, and actually I'm currently, what I'm pushing for with many younger folks is about really understanding concepts, because they are just coming with, I don't know, whatever, .NET or not .NET because it's not cool anymore, probably the TypeScript movement,
Hmm.
and explaining to me how cool it is. And well, dude, this is dependency injection, and it's a pattern that was implemented in Java a very long time ago, and it's something very simple currently, or observability and other stuff like that. Then I worked a lot into the challenging whether do you really need microservices. So more or less, I was always pushing back on concepts that didn't make sense. I mean, you start with
Yeah.
something, but for instance, I remember one of my colleagues said, "Okay, we need microservices." No, we don't. At this point, it's not needed. If it makes you feel better, you can just make them in different modules, and at the point when it makes sense to have clean boundaries, and then when it makes sense we can move them easier.
Yeah.
So basically I took the things that I learned during those years, and now I'm very happy to see a change in the paradigm. One of them is now Java is not that verbose when you need to write code, and people started using it for scripting. It's not that it's useful, but it's shrunk a lot the boilerplate code, and that's very important. And the other interesting thing for me is that now I had two Java users group organized, and there are a lot of young folks, and that was quite nice because for a short period of time it felt like the stereotype of the Java programmer would be like the stereotype of the C programmer some time ago, where everybody was like in their 50s, and it seemed that no fresh blood is coming. But now my feeling is that Java is getting cool again, and people understand how easy it is to use it and how powerful it can be.
Hmm.
I was very surprised by your presentation. I always wanted to try to generate more code in Java, but I have to admit, I used only co-pilots or stuff like that. That is
Hmm.
not actually, I didn't go to the MCP. I didn't have a chance yet to actually
Hmm.
try it. And I was really surprised by the quality. It was my feeling that it should be easier to generate those, because obviously you have a better model and there is a lot of good quality content. For instance, if you looked into the state of open source
Hmm.
reports that Sonatype published in the last 10 years, you can see that in comparison with JavaScript, for instance, on GitHub, Java had a better health in terms of GitHub projects, and that allowed more better code to be written. So yes, that's what I did lately, and now I'm getting more into IoT. Uh, my daughter is very curious, and I'm just trying to. For instance, they made some experiments at school with
Hmm.
what gets warmer quicker,
Hmm.
sand or water. And obviously they had like 2 points, two data points. So I challenged her to build a small project that will allow her to take infinite number of data points and go to her colleagues and show them how things are done. So
Yeah, interesting observation. I had similar observation to Java 1 last year, and I delivered this year in April it was, and I delivered a presentation, and I attended the last Java 1 in San Francisco before Corona, and the idea was, I don't know why I got the idea, but the idea was to have like a sequel. So okay, this was the idea, and now we can just continue. And then I ask the audience, who attends the Java 1 the first time. And 2/3 of the people were never a Java 1 before, which is a very good sign. And they were young people as well. And then I asked, even on my shorts, someone during the break, who are you and what are you doing here at Java 1? And he said, I'm a JavaScript developer, Node.js, and I'm really delighted, what I see here and how great Java is. And this was like, a guy in, 20, 30 years old. So maybe 2 or 3 years younger than we are, right? So this was now in April. But look, I would like to reinvite you back. So this was today. At least I wanted, to know the backgrounds of Java Advent. This was and your background, because you delivered a really interesting presentation and dev talks about LLMs. So I really enjoyed that. So okay, this was I have to invite you. So we have a
Happy to hear that.
freestyle conversation, because it's always fun. And this was in September, I think. And where people can find you, Java Advent Calendar, and on the internet, Java User Group Cluj, how they can join. So now is your time.
Well, currently we use Meetup because the website is very, very deprecated and we have to work on that. But it's on Meetup. You can find Transylvania Java User Group. On LinkedIn, currently there are pages for both Transylvania Java User Group and the Java Advent. Probably Twitter was the better choice, but somehow I'm not that inclined to use it anymore. And pretty much on all social networks that are still better, like Blue Sky and Mastodon.
Your name is Olympiapop, right?
Yes, my name is Olympiapop.
Perfect. Then thank you, and see you next time.
Well, Adam. Thank you.